Today we're taking a look at the top 25 vintage football card sales on eBay in February. This month there was a ton of autograph cards that make the list, and the lowest priced card in our top 25 is $1,700, whereas other cards escalate almost up to five figures. So let's take a look at this. All right, let's jump right into this video. A few rules. Number one, no duplicate cards. If there's an autograph, that's fine, or a variant. Graded and raw cards are okay as well, and for vintage football 1986 or earlier. So we're going to start off with a 1956 Topps card, number 103 of Bobby Dillon. This is a PSA 9, and it sold for $1,686. It's a pop 10 in the PSA 9 grade with a single 10 out there. Up next, we have the Four Horsemen, famous players from Notre Dame. This is from 1955 Topps All-American Football. It is a PSA 8 grade, and it's a very classic card from the set. There's quite a few that people collect in this set, and this is towards the top. This copy over here sold for $1,800. We have the Mean Joe Green rookie card from 1971 Topps, card 245 in a PSA 8 grade. This sold for $1,836. Card that we typically see every single month in these videos. 1957 Johnny Unitas in a PSA 7 grade. 57 is loaded with Hall of Fame rookie cards. This Unitas in the 7 sold for $1,905. And a little bit later on in this video, you're going to see another 1957 card that is signed. It's actually our top spot this week, so make a prediction on who that is. We have a 1959 Topps of Don Owens. Not too familiar with Owens. This set does have a lot of collectors out there, so you'll see 9s and 10s go for crazy prices. This 10 over here sold for about $2,200. It's a pop 3 in that grade. If you drop down to a 9, it's still expensive at $150. Jumping into our top 20, we have a 1962 Fleer card number 16 of Billy Shaw that achieved the PSA 9 grade. It's a pop 7 in PSA 9. There's two 10s out there, and this 9 sold for $2,142. Next, we have our first Walter Payton of this week from 1980 Topps, card number 160, and it says NFC All-Pro at the very top. I'm actually surprised how many 10s there are. I mean, there's 47, and this still sold for about $2,300. Number 18 is a 1966 Philadelphia rookie card of Gale Sayers. Another pretty common card that we typically see in this series. This 8 sold for $2,300. Up next, we have a 1974 Topps, card number 220 of Franco Harris. It's a pop 7 in a PSA 10. A 9 typically goes for about $225, but there is a lot of variance in that pricing for 9s. This 10 copy over here sold for $2,365. We have another 1959 Topps of Mike McCormick, card number 74 in the PSA 9 grade. This one sold for $2,429. Jumping into our top 15 now, we have Ahmad Rashad, card number 467 from 1980 Topps. This is a pop 1 in the PSA 10 grade, and it sold slightly under $2,500 at $2,474.99. We have a 1965 Winston Hill Topps autograph. There's only 5 copies of this card signed at PSA. He was a class of 2020 Football Hall of Fame and had a 13-year career with the Jets. Sold price on this one, $24.99. Card is in a 5 grade with the 9 auto, and it does have an inscription. 1952 Bowman Small of John Caston. Never heard of this player. It's a pop 4 in a PSA 9, and fun fact, the last 9 sold for $352 back in 2020, which is 5 years ago. Time flies. This copy over here sold for $2,500, a substantial increase over what a lot of people perceive as the high of the market. We have a 1969 Topps, card number 34 of Merlin Olsen that achieved the PSA 10 grade. There's only 3 10s out there. 1969 tends to be chipped pretty easily, so you don't see a lot of those. And what's really interesting is this is a brand new cert as well. So this card has to be phenomenal. Probably the best Merlin Olsen out there in the 10 from 1969 Topps out of those three. This one sold for $2,827. We have a 1971 Terry Bradshaw rookie card in a PSA 8. Again, another card we see quite often. This one sold for $3,199. Before we jump into our top 10, let's take a look at a few honorable mentions that just missed this list. First, we have a 1962 Johnny Unitas in a 7 card number 1 in the 1962 Topps set. Again, a very condition sensitive set. These chip really, really easily, just like the 1971 Topps baseball cards. This 7 sold for $832. We have a Len Dawson 1963 Fleer. Card is graded a 1.5. The auto has a 10 grade. This one sold for $899. Another autograph of 1977 Steve Largent. The card has a 9 grade with a 10 auto, and it sold for $1,240. 1952 Jim Lansford in a PSA 8 OC. Curious about the sale because it sold for $1,500. Typically, this would be a 6 without that qualifier. 1982 Topps of Ronnie Lott in a PSA 10 grade. There's 122 10s out there. This one sold for $1,575. 1972 Topps card number 1 AFC rushing leaders that features Floyd Little, Larry Zonka, and Marv Hubbard. It's a pop 3 in a PSA 10 grade, and this copy over here sold for $1,622. 1948 Leaf Doak Walker. This one in a 7 grade by SGC sold for $1,646. 1954 Bowman Lou Groza in a PSA 9 grade. This one sold for $1,662. And then lastly, we have a full 1948 Bowman football card set, all raw over here, and it sold for $2,300. So now let's jump into our top 10. We're going to start off with a Newt Rockne from 1933 Sports Kings set. I've talked about quite a lot on the channel. This copy over here was graded a 5.5 by Beckett or BVG, and it sold for $3,500. We'll still see another Sports King really soon because another made the top 10. We have a pretty tough card, a 1977 Topps Mexican of Walter Payton. I believe a lower grade version of this card did appear in one of the top 25 videos, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. This in a 7 sold for $4,350. For football, like the Mexican cards are kind of like the equivalent of how we have Vennies within vintage baseball. They're very, very tough to find, typically condition sensitive as well. Now, this was released in the 70s, whereas baseball, the classic run of Venny cards were from 59 through 68. So those were a little bit earlier. Obviously, 70s is a little bit better, like condition-wise, but they still tend to be tough. Number 8 is a 1958 Topps of Jim Brown in a 7 grade. This one achieved the final price of $4,360. Here we have another Sports Kings in a 5 grade of Red Grange, which is phenomenal. This one over here sold for $4,800. And contrary to popular belief, he actually has quite a few cards before his 33 Sports Kings. Number 6, we have a 1982 Topps card 434 of Lawrence Taylor in the PSA 10 grade. There's 192 10s of this out there, and the final price on this card sold for $5,422.87. Let's jump into our top 5, and we're going to start off with a 1984 Dan Marino. It's graded a pristine 10 by Beckett. Centering, edges, and corners all got 10, and unfortunately the surface got a 9.5. Otherwise, would have had a black label. This one sold for the solid price of $5,999. 1981 Joe Montana. This has a 9.5 Gemman grade, 9.5 centering, 9.5 edges, 9.5 surface, and unfortunately the corners have a 9. Otherwise you would have the quad 9.5s. This copy over here sold for $6,516. At number 3, we have a 1984 Topps card number 63 of John Elway. achieved the PSA 10 grade, which there's 191 of those out there. This sold for $7,264. We have a tie for technically spots 1 and 2, but we'll jump into the first of the two. 1965 Joe Namath. This has a 5 on the card, a 10 on the autograph. There's 115 signed copies at PSA, and this card sold for $8,500. And our number one spot also selling for $8,500. Bart Starr, 1957 autograph with the inscription saying Hall of Fame. This has only 32 copies signed at PSA, and the final sales price on this one was $8,500. What I will say, the card looks pretty nice overall, at least from far away. It looks at like should bid at least a 3, unless there's some condition issues right there, which I can't fully tell. But regardless, I think this should probably get the dual grade. I can't tell what's going on over here, because at least it looks good from the eye appeal side of things. And yeah, that's it, guys, for this video. Thanks very much for checking out. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to put another video on the screen that I think you guys will enjoy, so make sure to check that out if you want to. And I will catch you in next month's football video, but I still recommend you check out some of the other top 25 videos that we put out every single week.